We're going to be talking about forgiving the small offenses, things that happen that often accumulate and accumulate. And sometimes we kind of trip over those little things that kind of, offend us or annoy us, right? If you don't know somebody who's like, well, in fact, like, I'm curious to know how many of you, like, would say you know somebody that's easily offended. You can raise your hand. Just don't point at the person if they're in here, because, they might get offended if they're easily offended, right? We want to so, if you don't know anybody who's easily offended, you probably are not on social media, because it's a jungle out there in social media. In fact, you might find yourself, getting offended every day if you're on social media. I don't know what it might be for you. Maybe somebody like, what, this is really bothering me, this noise that's making. Maybe I can just do. Well, doesn't it sound the little beeping thing? That thing is making noise. I keep moving it with my arm.
Crackling.
Huh?
Crackling.
Yeah, it's because I keep hitting it, and so see, every time I do this, and I can't help it. I can't help that.
You express it.
With my. Okay, let's try to see if this works here. Okay. So. Now, I don't know what it might be for you. Maybe somebody like rolls their eyes at you, right? And that just kind of gets you going and sets you off, right? I don't like the rolling of eyes. I really don't. So that might be it for you. I don't know. Maybe somebody has a tone in their voice, right? A tone in their voice, and you don't like it, and you just kind of take offense on it, right? Or maybe like somebody like forgets to say thank you for something that you did to serve them or to make a difference, and they didn't say thank you. It's like I can get incredibly offended when, like, I'm driving in traffic and then that I let somebody in. They're stuck there and nobody gives them a chance, and I am gracious enough to let them in, to say, go ahead. And they don't even give me like the thank you wave, the nod, anything. It's like there's somewhere in the Bible that you should be, giving a thank you when somebody lets you in traffic. That's like a must. I'm sure it's in the Bible somewhere. I just haven't seen where it's at, right? But you know what? I'm just like, you didn't give me like a nod or anything, to tell me thank you. I could have just left you there. You would have probably been there forever in the traffic, waiting because I let you in. And, I think with my grace, I gave them a passage, but they didn't say thank you. So I really get offended when that happens, right? You get offended for like a lot of stuff. Your friend, doesn't respond to a text, or they slow respond. Don't you hate that? It's like, they got the message and they read it, and you see the little bubbles. There's bubbles, right? Little bubbles going on. So that they're like kind of starting to respond, and then they ghost you. Like, you're done. That nothing happened. You're like, what happened? You were answering me. You were bubble. There was bubbles. Like, I saw the bubbles, so I know you were answering me, and then you don't. And so I'm just offended. I'm offended. You can get offended just by looking on social media, all the stuff that people post, how often they post, what they post about. Maybe they comment on your friend's post, not on your post. Oh my goodness, that's not even right. Or they unfriend you. That's like the mortal sin for the social media, right? If you unfriend somebody, that's not even good. But you can get offended for anything, and I'm not pointing at anybody else. I can be the worst, right? Because one day I was driving home from church, and I just like a few weeks ago, it was a couple weeks ago, and I just preached God's word to God's people, right? And someone like cut me off in traffic, right? They cut me off, that got me going, first of all, right there. I had some shopping to do, some last minute Christmas shopping, which was actually all my Christmas shopping was last minute. So it was all my Christmas shopping, last minute Christmas shopping that I had to do it. I was going to the malls, driving around looking for a parking spot that was, it was crazy. It was a jungle. But I was driving, looking, and I guess somebody didn't like that I was driving so slow, and, they didn't like it. So the next thing you know, I see this lady, she gives me this, like, look, and I'm like, what? She's giving me the look, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep driving. And then all of a sudden, I see this lady with her middle finger sticking up, and I was like, oh, no, that did it. That just did it for me. I just like, oh, no. And I put my, your pastor here was going to go gangster. She just like put the car in park, open the door, right? I'm going to take care of business right now. I'm going to handle this because, for God's glory, of course. For God's glory, I'm going to be an instrument of justice and righteousness. Got out of the car, I'm walking over there, and then I realized that she didn't even flip me off. Right? She had flipped somebody else off. And I'm like, oh, now I'm offended for that person. I'm going to go stand over there and be offended with them because it's like, the point is that if you're looking for something to be offended for, you're going to find it. You're going to find something to get offended for. It's just ridiculous how many things we can get offended for that are really just small things that just set us off and just bring us down because we're just letting it happen, right? So, we want to make sure that we're not like letting things offend us that are just insignificant. So, I've never found myself, saying, oh, I'm just so much better because I'm bitter. I'm having a better day because I'm offended over something small. I've never had that kind of thing happen to me. I've never said my marriage is stronger because I'm carrying a grudge, or, my relationships are richer because I'm offended. I'm closer to God now. I'm closer to God, and I'm making much more difference for God because I've accumulated all these offenses, and they're getting under my skin. That's never happened. There's never going to be a win in living offended. We're never going to win that way. And that's why I tell myself over and over again that, it's something I hope you'll maybe internalize and tell yourself, and that's that your life is too short and your calling is too great to be offended by something small. Your life is just too short and your calling is too great to be offended by something small. Your life keeps on moving by. Your calling from God to love in this world is too great, and to be offended and sidetracked, distracted, by the small little things that can offend us. I love Proverbs 19:11. It says, and we're going to visit this verse again in the end, but I wanted to start with this verse. It says, a person's wisdom yields patience. It's to one's glory to overlook. Everybody say overlook. Overlook. Say overlook. You guys can't even say it. Say overlook. You guys are like, no way. To overlook an offense. It's to one's glory to overlook an offense. And that's why the title of today's message is, I'm over it. I'm over it. It's to one's glory to overlook. To overlook. Nudge the person next to you, if you have somebody next to you, and say, I'm over it. It doesn't matter what you did when we came to church, before we got up in the morning. It doesn't matter what you've done to me. I'm over it. I'm done. My spiritual mother had this thing she used to do when she was always like trying to train me spiritually, right? And then she would see me, I was bothered with something, and she would say, Mija, she would just go like this. Just let it come off your shoulder, It's the same principle. I'm over it. I'm done. I'm not going to let it bother you. I'm not going to let it bring me down. I'm not going to keep thinking about it. I'm just going to let it go. I'm over it. I'm just done, right? I'm over it. Okay? So how do we go past these little daily, temptations that we have to easily become offended? Well, I'm going to give you one answer. It's like one big statement, and I hope we're going to kind of unpack it together the rest of the time we're here. So how do you grow past these daily conditions to be offended? The answer is we close the gap with love. We close the gap with love. Proverbs 10, verse 12 says, hatred stirs up strife, and you already know this. Hatred stirs up strife. Hatred complicates and distends relationships, but love covers all offenses. It says, love covers offenses. We close the gap with love. So, there's a dynamic that happens every interaction that we have. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but every time that you have an interaction with someone, there's a gap between their action and your reaction. There's a little gap. There's a split second, a micro gap, or just a moment, just a second where you get to interpret the decision that you're gonna make based on the action what that action means to you. Okay, so there's always an action, there's a gap, and then there's a reaction that you have, or that we have. The key is this. You get to choose what you put in that gap. There's that second, that tiny little moment that you can decide what happens. What happens with what they've done and what you're going to do with it. Okay, for example, there's an action, the lady puts out her middle finger in the air, and she's driving past her pastor, right? There's a micro moment that I get to decide, I get to interpret what the meaning was behind that middle finger, which could never be good, of course. I don't love cats, and I don't like middle fingers, honestly. So, you could think, you just gotta decide what you're gonna do with it. Are you gonna just ignore it and just let it go? Or are you gonna just kind of try to go gangster on them and just like chase them down the freeway to try to tell you they're sorry, right? That's not a good idea. Okay, so I get to choose. Okay, we interpret the meaning of the action, and the problem is that we are horrible interpreters. We really are. If you think about it, we are horrible at interpreting other people's actions. You and I am, we're both, all of us are very bad. How many times have you misinterpreted, or someone misinterpreted what you've done or you've said, right? How many times, how they misinterpreted what you said to them, and you thought to yourself, how in the world did you think I meant that? How in the world would you ever think that I would even say that about you, or that I meant that when I said that? How would you ever imagine that I could ever do such a thing? I would never say such a hurtful comment to you, you know, I'm going to tell you that I am a pastor, and there's so many times that I've said something to somebody and they've taken it a whole different way. And I'm like, how did you get that from what I said? I didn't mean that at all. I meant something else. And they're like, that's what I interpreted about what you, and so there goes weeks go by that they're hurt, or they're kind of weird with me. And I'm like, something is wrong. I feel like something is wrong with this relationship here. And sometimes I'll be wise enough to go and ask and say, hey, is something wrong? Did I do something to you, or did I hurt your feelings? And like, well, you know, a couple of weeks ago, you know, and I'm like, oh my goodness, are you kidding? That's not at all what I meant when I said that. And they're like, oh, I thought no, how would you, and we think, how could you ever think that? You know me, you know my heart. Why would you ever think that, right? But we do. We're horrible at interpreting, right? We're horrible. And, you know, this is called like the fundamental attribution error. So we will always slip. We always are biased to our own behavior and our circumstances, right? And when somebody else's, when they have a bad action or attitude, we attribute it to their character. When we do something wrong, we're like, oh no, it was a circumstance. I had a bad day, I had a migraine, I'm going through it, it's that time of the month, whatever you want to call it. And then when somebody else does something, we're like, oh no, they're just a bad person. Let me give you an example. Okay, so let's say that you're in a store and your kid throws a fit. There's a reason, right? There's a reason why your kid's throwing a fit. I'm sure that maybe the kid didn't get a nap, maybe, you know, they didn't have a snack yet, or maybe it's been a hard day, you know, we had some stuff going on at home. So give me some grace, man. Cut me some slack, right? Cut me some slack. My kid's having a tantrum today, but it's not an always thing. It's just the one-time thing that's happening because there's stuff going on that attributed to that kid, my kid having a little tantrum, okay? But, somebody else's kid throws a tantrum in the store, and right away you determine that it's a lazy parent. Lazy parent doesn't discipline your kid, doesn't know how to, and then they're raising a demon-possessed terrorist, and we need to protect ourselves from them. Right away we think that. How many times has that happened to you? Because I know it's happened to me. Did I see a person in the store and the kid's yelling or whatever, and I'm like, take care of your kid. I'm sure that's not the way your kid acts. That's the way they act at home. That's why they act in the store. Don't we think that? Mm-hmm. That's the truth. And I mean, I'm going to be honest here. I'm pointing at me, so you guys know. And so I'm saying, but when our kids have an issue, we make I have a reason. I'm not a bad parent. I'm not a bad person. We're just having some stuff going on. My kid didn't have a nap, like whatever. You know what I mean? I got them up too early. I brought them out of their nap, and now they're in a bad mood. So we have to remember we have to use the same guidelines for both interpretations when we do that. Someone else's kids will grow up and we just right away determine if they're a bad person or a bad parent. But there's always that gap. We always get to choose what we put in that little gap. That right before we start talking or we make an action or reaction over what they're doing, we have that second to put something in that gap. So what do you put in the gap? What do you put in the gap? We have a spiritual enemy. His name is Satan, the devil, whatever you want to call him, right? And one of his titles is the accuser. It's in Revelation chapter 12. It says the accuser accuses the brother day in and day out. And he's always accusing us. He's always saying you're no good. You're not worthy of God. God doesn't love you. And how do we fill the gap? Well, the devil wants you to fill the gap with accusations, right? He wants us to accuse the other person. If you fill the gap with accusations, you think, well, she's all about herself. She doesn't care about me. She doesn't care about me. She doesn't, you can't trust anybody. Everybody's just about themselves. That's just the way it is. The devil wants you to choose to fill the gaps with accusations. But accusations, they eat away at marriages. They split friendships. Accusations destroy churches. Accusations will just destroy relationships. And the devil wants you to fill the gap with accusations. But God wants you to fill the gap with love. He says, fill the gap with love. He wants you to fill the gap with love. Proverbs 17:9 says, whoever would foster love covers an offense, but whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. Love covers an offense, the Bible says. Love gives the benefit of the doubt, right? Love chooses to believe the best. love trusts the person and believes the best. So, you know, in other words, if Cesar tells me, that's my husband, the pastor, just so you know. Cesar, he says, did you already make dinner? Right? The devil would want me to say, well, he's just trying to say I'm lazy and I haven't made dinner yet. Right? He hasn't even taken the trash out. Why is he always ragging on me about dinner? Right? I know what I'm supposed to do. Love doesn't do that. Love probably says, he probably just wants to know or curious what I'm making for dinner or what I make for dinner, right? He just wants to know. Did you make dinner? I want to know what you made, right? Not calling me lazy. He just wants to know. He's just curious to know if it's ready or if he can eat because maybe he's hungry, right? That's all. But when we let the enemy put stuff in our mind and put accusations in the gap, then we start thinking something totally different. But when we let love fill the gap, then we can take that second and just say, you know what? No, he's not trying to say I'm lazy. He's just saying he wants to know what I made for dinner, or he wants to know if dinner's ready, right? Love assumes the best. Love, you know, maybe if your friend doesn't answer you right away, if my friend doesn't answer me and I see the little bubbles and then they're gone, I'm like, I could think, well, maybe she just got busy, something happened, and she was going to text me back, and then, you know, her kid fell, or, you know, their boss called her, or something happened, and she just forgot to text me back. She'll text me back later. We're good friends, so we're okay, you know. Paul says it clearly in Ephesians chapter 4:2. He says, be patient with each other. He says, making allowances for each other's faults. Why would he put that in there? He knew we're going to make mistakes. He knew we're going to mess up. But he says, be patient. Be patient and make allowances. Make room. Make room for one another's faults. Because of your love. Make allowances. Give the benefit of the doubt. In other words, someone else's behavior is not all about you. The bad driving is not always about you. The bad mood is not always about you. The edge in their voice is not always just about you. Maybe they have something happening that day. Maybe they got some bad news and they came, and when they talk to you, they've got this edge on their voice, but it's not about you at all. It's just not. And you want others to give you the benefit of the doubt, so we want to do the same thing for other people. Why? Because of your love. But what if somebody is like rude to you? What if they're just intentionally mean or harsh? What do you do then? What do you do to them then? Well, what I try to do is just realize that if someone is really unnecessarily hateful to me, they're probably going through something that's really causing them to hurt and to have that behavior. Because I believe that when I tell you that if you want to make things bigger, if you want to make a bigger difference in the world, you're going to have people that don't like you, that are rude to you, that are hateful to you. It's just going to happen. And you better be ready to just accept it. You're not going to be, in Spanish they call it la monedita, I don't know what they call it. They say like you're the coin that everybody likes or something like that. The pretty face on the coin. I don't know what it is. I forgot that one thing. But anyways, but instead of being like offended, like by, let's have compassion for. So instead of being offended by what they're saying, what they're doing, or by the person, let's have compassion for that person instead. Instead of being offended, you know, by how they acted or what they did or they didn't do, I want to try to have compassion for that person and make allowances, because maybe they're going through some stuff. And because of love in my heart, I want to give them that benefit of the doubt. So I wonder what are they going through? There's always going to be a gap, and you get to choose what to put in that gap. I love the power of Proverbs 19:11. A person's wisdom yields patience. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense. A person's wisdom, it's wise to be patient, the Bible says. A person's wisdom yields patience, and here's the key. It's to one's glory to overlook an offense. It's to your glory to overlook the offense. To overlook an offense. It's God honoring to overlook an offense. Now, what does that mean, to overlook an offense? Now, to overlook an offense is not the same thing as just like pretending it didn't happen. That's not what that means at all. To overlook an offense is a conscious decision to just let it go. It's a form of forgiveness, like in real time, like now. I'm not going to carry this and wake up 3 weeks later and decide I'm going to forgive them. You know, I'm not going to, it's in the moment, real-time decision to stay above the offense and just forget about it. Just let it go. I know it happened. I know they were rude to me. I know they were like super mean to me, but I'm just going to let it go. It's not even worth it. I'm just going to forgive at that very moment, let it go, because I'm just over it. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go. In fact, the Hebrew word that's translated as overlook is the word avar. And what it means is to pass over. It means to pass over the offense. So in other words, instead of focusing on the offense, replaying the offense, right? Rehearsing it in my head. I'm rehearsing what they said. I can't believe she said that to me. I can't believe it. I can over and over again in my head. It's playing in my head. And then I'm going in my mind what I could have said, what I should have said to them, what I should have said, and what I'm gonna say when I see them again, right? I'm gonna rehearse this. I'm gonna be thinking about it. But instead of doing that, we're just gonna pass over it. We're just going to rise above the offense because we have more important things to do. We have an important calling. And we're just going to be over it. I'm over it. I'm just going to be over it, right? I have real-time forgiveness, and I'm going to choose to let this go. My purpose lifts me up. The devil wants to lower us down, drag us down in the offense, right? That it will just drag us down, but my God has a higher calling in our life, and I'm already over it. We're just going to be over it, right? In that very moment, we're deciding to honor. That is to honor God. That is to our glory. It's to my glory to just let it go. To get over it. To go above it. Staying above it, I'm already over it. Your coworker doesn't invite you to the party. I'm over it. I'm over it. It's not going to hold me back. Right? It's not going to hold me back. Someone makes a snarky comment on your social media. I'm over it. I'm going to let that weigh me down. I'm going to let it go. I'm just going to let it go. Right? If your husband doesn't compliment you your dinner, just kidding. Just kidding. I'm over it. It may take me more than a couple of seconds to get over it, but I promise I'm going to just get over it. I'm not going to let the enemy slow me down. Wisdom, it yields patience. I'm over it. I'm over it. I've got more important calling. Jesus gave us a calling. He said that he wants us to love in the world. So that's my calling. I'm not going to let just some little small thing drag me down. I'm going to get over that. I'm going to believe this is one of the most divisive, destructive tools the enemy has in our culture today. That the culture that's offended by every single thing. Listen, nobody's ever changed the world by being offended, by being always in a grouchy mood. Imagine Jesus getting off mission, throwing a fit. Matthew, you weren't paying attention to my Sermon on the Mount. Oh, you just hurt my feelings. I can't calm the storm. I'm sorry. I'm just really offended right now. Imagine that. And that's how we act sometimes. We act this way. But you imagine Jesus being offended for everything that happened to him? Those Pharisees, oh my goodness, there was this one. He was giving me a dirty look. A dirty look. Me, a dirty look. I can't believe it. He just hurt my feelings. I don't think I'm going to be in the mood to do any miracles today because those Pharisees were so rude to me. Right? Or, Thomas, you didn't even compliment me on my miracle. Didn't you see I opened the blind eyes? What do you want from me? You want me to raise the dead? Come on, right? I can't believe it. I can't take this anymore. Can you imagine Jesus getting offended over those little things and just getting off mission? No way. His mission was all about love, and it was all about just doing God's will. He said, I'm here on earth to show the goodness, the love of my Father in all that I do. And that's our mission too. We're not gonna let anything take us off track. Don't let the enemy take you off track with his accusations in his mind. So whenever you find yourself getting offended, well, that's really offensive to me. Why? That's just blah, 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 blah. Don't worry about it. Just choose to love, right? I always tell myself all the time, the calling ahead of me is greater than the offense that is behind me. The calling before me, the calling ahead of me is greater than the offenses behind me. I have a calling from God, and he has empowered me and equipped me. We don't want to just get dragged down. My life is way too short, and my calling is way too important to be offended by the little small things. I'm over it. My calling to love elevates me. There's always going to be a gap. We close the gap with love. We assume the best. Even if they get angry and they're mean and they're hateful, well, they must be going through something. Just think they must be going through something. Instead of choosing to be offended, I'm going to have compassion for that person, right? I'm over it. I'm forgiving in the moment. Man, if I could just sit down with every single one of you and like try to represent like really what God would say, you know, I think that God would just say, God, don't be offended by the little stuff that's going on, by the politics and the social media. Just let it go. Just forget all that stuff. Don't defend your theology with anger and hatred. We're called to love people. To love. I know we sometimes we fight and we argue and we think, well, we're defending the truth, we're defending good things, but we're gonna know how to do that too. We can't do it with hatred. My life is way too short. It's just a breath. It's gone like this. It's gone like this. When if you've had like, people that have passed away, you see how quickly, it's gone. And that's just our life. We have to live our life in love, because when we're gone, that's all people are going to remember. They're going to remember how we treated each other, how we treated other people. That's what's going to be left behind from us. So the next time the devil tries to pull you down, you say, nope. By the power of Jesus, I'm over it. I'm over it. You try to keep him down, but he has resurrection power, and he has that same power that is given to me. Right? And his purpose is going to drive you real time in the moment. We're going to choose to forgive it. We're going to choose to be over it. For the glory of God, we have more important things to do. Why don't you pray with me this morning? Father, we pray.